We've had elite entrepreneurs of all different spaces. We've had artists, we've had thought leaders, we've had hypnotists. And today we have an incredible politician that has done multiple of these. He's an entrepreneur, he was an artist, and now he is running for governor of California. Major Williams. This is an incredible episode. I sat back. I don't reside in California anymore, so I was letting Eugene run with it, and we got into some incredible topics with the plans that he has for California. And I think if any of you guys, I think majority or a lot of our listeners have some form of relation or live in California, this is one episode you're not going to want to miss. If you haven't left a review yet, please leave a written review down below. Let us know what you got from the episode, what you loved about it. Leave some comments below if you're listening on YouTube. Just let us know what you like, what you want to hear, what you'd like us to ask on round 2 if we bring a guest back on, any future guests, spotlights that you would like to recommend. We love hearing from our listeners, so just let us know. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into this episode.
Major Williams, pleasure to meet you, brother.
Well, you too, man.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. We are definitely excited to have a conversation with you.
Absolutely. Let's get to it, man. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. How's your day going so far?
Busy.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, definitely appreciate you taking the time here to share your story and your vision for California with our audience.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it.
For sure.
As far as who I am, of course, if you follow me, you know I'm originally from Dallas, Texas. I'm a Texan originally. Came to California over 21 years ago on a visit, and I always laugh when I tell this story. The third day I met this amazing woman, and I just decided never to go back to Texas. And that's kind of like the evolution of how I actually ended up here in California. So I've been with my wife 21 years, 3 amazing kids. Professionally, I thought I was going to play NBA basketball, though that didn't work out.
You and me both, brother.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to meet an amazing individual by the name of Ian Hunter. And I lived in Valencia at the time, and I met him at the sports gym, and he was an older gentleman, probably around 66, 70 years old at the time, but he was a founder of this nonprofit. It was called Erickson Mental Health Facilities in Van Nuys. And he just, brought me on board. I didn't have a job at the time, so I was like a group home youth counselor at the time.
And how old were you 21 years ago?
I was 23. 24.
Okay.
And I had an opportunity to kind of like learn the ins and outs of how to build a nonprofit organization and also run a foundation, being up under him for 4 or 5 years during that particular time. And that was kind of like my entry into getting into nonprofits and also working with nonprofits. Fast forward today, being a founder of my own nonprofit, which is called Major Kicks for Kids. And we give away over 1,000 pair of shoes every single year, 2,000 haircuts, but also beyond that, just offer mentorships for young boys and girls transitioning to whatever business, ideal, entrepreneur aspirations that they have. We kind of like, we're their resource or whatever. So politics, of course, wasn't on my radar. I didn't have any posters of any political figures. I wasn't like an activist or anything. As I said earlier, I wanted to be in sports and entertainment, and I actually was able to participate in those various industries as well. But politics more so came on my radar 4.5 years ago. In the sense of being a part of politics, I've understood politics to a certain degree, and we voted and stuff like that. But being active in politics was 4.5 years ago. A good friend of mine by the name of Cole Harris, he decided to run for governor of California. And it was interesting to me because he had never been in politics before. So I was like so many other people, automatically I'm thinking that you have to come from that culture or you have done it before, whatever. And he totally was not that at all. He's a good friend of mine for 9 years. And we just started going down a rabbit hole of politics and policy, and we just kind of identified, party-wise, where more so of my mindset was in regards to how I live my life currently now.
What was your political upbringing like? Were your parents, were they on the left? Were they on the right? Did they not care?
Yeah,
what were you exposed to?
I don't know if they really care, but they would say we're Democrats. And one of the main things that my mother would say that the government cared about us. But when she said government, she meant Democrats because they gave us free money.
Mm-hmm.
They gave us free food. And so as a kid growing up, you look at that as like fairness. You look at that as like good versus now I look at that as hindering. I look at that as enabling versus giving people a hand up versus a hand down, which is why I always say one of the main reasons from a simplistic viewpoint, why I'm a conservative beyond my Christian values is that I'm the individual that rather show you how I made the $100 versus just give you the $100. And I think that in itself is a universal language, or it should be, because I want to see you eat. I want to see you, do well and not have to come back to me specifically for another $100, right?
Yeah, I absolutely relate to that. I grew up in a Democratic household. Parents still voted. They voted for Biden. Very left. They watch MSNBC all day, and
Yeah,
so
so
I'm fortunate though that my parents and I also have an understanding that, hey, we can see things differently politically, and at the end of the day, it's still all love. So I feel like everybody who's kind of gone down that similar path that it looks like maybe you and I went down, there's that moment where they come out of the closet, if you will, as a conservative or a Republican, especially in communities of color. What was that like for you? Was it a big dramatic thing, or was it just like, hey guys, by the way, I'm a Republican now? How did you handle that?
Well, for me, it was I don't have the same experience of a lot of people that I know that are like, especially Black and conservative. Like my mother, like, cause my family loves me. Like, we just have a different kind of bond because we've been through so much. So we're not going to allow politics and parties to kind of tear us apart, because we have went through some very tough times together. And so if this is something that's empowering and uplifting me and it allows me to be my best Christian self, to be a provider for my family, for my kids, and they see that all I've done up under this umbrella, they like, go be great, son.
Love it.
I guess that's, so we haven't had that issue. And as you said, also, my family members a lot of them are still Democrats. It was cool that my mom texted me 6 weeks before the election and said she's voting for Trump. So we had a quick celebration. Working on her the entire time. So no, I haven't had a lot of pushback when it comes to family and friends of that nature. So it's been good from that perspective.
So what is your message, your words of encouragement to those who have had pushback internally with their family?
Well, one of the things that I do is, before I even get to that point, I kind of ask them how life is.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to ask people how life is. How's your community? How's your environment? And oftentimes they give you all the pieces to the puzzle you need to actually convince them that you may need to go a different direction. And so if I ask my cousin, for instance, like how is life? He say, man, community center is underfunded. The education system is broken or whatever. Then I can come full circle and say, well, this is a Democrat-run city and these Democrat-run policies, right? So because you said X, Y, and Z, I'm showing you something that's directly identified with why some of these manifestations are happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at least it's not like you should be this or you should be this. I give you some bits and pieces and morsels to kind of chew on, so you can still kind of come up with your own opinion, which is what I did with my mother. My mother loves me. I love my mother. It is what it is. I never said you should vote for this or you should be this. This is what I am, and this is why. And over time, through conversations, asking her, like, how do you feel about the climate of everything right now? She was able to come full circle.
Bring it home.
Love it. No, that's exactly what you want to do, people. You never want to attack somebody. You want to just have civilized dialogue. Remember, we're all adults here. We can disagree, and let the people form their own conclusions based on the facts and not the emotions of an argument. So I love the way you did that. So back to how you got into politics. So you said your friend ran for governor, and somehow this inspired you, because if I feel like if I saw Dustin running for governor, that might make me not want to run for governor extra.
Well, the thing about it, he asked me to join him. So my background is in marketing. I went to school for marketing. And so even before, even with the nonprofit I was working with, I was doing marketing for them as well. He wanted me to come on board as a marketing director and also for community outreach with this campaign. So that was my end, per se. Politics is like any other industry. Other individuals that are around you, if they smell or sense talent, they want to try to cultivate and support that particular talent. So during that particular 6-month stretch when we were running, we was traveling all over California, and I was connecting with different people in different circles, in different groups, in different communities. And I'm getting up speaking on behalf of the candidates or the issues and the policies that we're going to usher in that's going to be beneficial for our communities. I guess for whatever reason, I did a good job to start having an echo chamber of people saying, Major, you should run for something. Like, what are you doing after this? You should run for something. And so it was just a continuation of that to start, planting that seed in my head. It's like, maybe I should run for something, right? And I did. I ran for mayor of Pasadena. Started 2 years early. I came in third in that race in March 2020, and a lot of people look at that as um, uh, a limiter for me because it's because traditionally you're going to think if you couldn't win a local race, what makes you think that you can win a statewide race? But if
Sure.
you look at the full context and look at what I did as a first-time candidate, a Black conservative Republican, openly supporting the president of the United States in a liberal city,
Hmm.
I personally got the most votes ever, out of a first-time candidate in Pasadena. So that's the real context. You know, there's been plenty of people who've been successful who have failed the first or second time or whatever, but you don't stop going. That's the whole point and purpose of it. And so from that, we was able to create a base. And ever since then, 4.5 years, I have been working with different groups, different organizations, using my nonprofit to give back and to add value, using my brand Majorpreneur to speak to small business owners and young up and coming entrepreneurs on how to entrepreneur and how to market your businesses better
Love
and
it.
adding value however I can.
Love it. As a lifetime resident of California, born, raised, and currently residing in, although every day I talk to Dustin, he makes a case for Boise, Idaho. Um, but you see someone like Major Williams running for governor of California, and maybe I'll stick around. So Major, I'd like to ask you just a very general question. I mean, when you look at the state of California, like, what do you see? What are the problems you see out there? What is your current state of affairs analysis of what we're dealing with right now in California?
So first of all, when I look at California, I 100% see opportunity. You know, I know the morale is low and the perspective of how people may individually feel about California, but understand this: if you don't have a foundation of faith, of a little optimism, and see the opportunity, because let's not forget, California is still the brand of all brand of states. It's Nike, it's Coca-Cola. This is what California is. The only thing California is missing is real leadership.
Mm.
Real leadership that understands how to get jobs done. Being an entrepreneur for the last 21 years and entrepreneur, small business owner, me and my wife have to use our imagination on how to make a dollar every single month, right? The problem is that we keep electing these similar or same type of individuals or as elected officials who lack imagination, who are career workers, who are
Hmm.
just like the scholarly type that don't know how to hustle, don't know how to figure things out. And I always use this analogy before I finish what I'm about to say. My older sister, I always use her as an example. She may not like it, but I use her as an example. She made the best grades out of both of us, and she can barely open up a book and just get A's and B's. I had to like really pound the pavement to get my little C plus or my B, right? But the difference between me and my sister, at 10 years old, I would get up and go and sell car incense at the car wash. Then I got my own lawnmower and I started cutting yards all over the neighborhoods and making my own money. Although she was scholarly and was so smart in the books, I was books and also knew how to make a dollar and knew how to empower other people beyond myself, right? And that's what we're missing when it comes to leadership. As a governor, we're not missing the smartest person, the person with the most money, the person who says, I can fix everything. We've had those, for decades, right? What we're missing is someone who can galvanize and inspire people and someone who's willing to govern from a partnership collaboration standpoint. The fact that you've been here as long as you've been here and you don't have a single moment that you can share with me right now on the screen with any of the governors, and I'm assuming, of course, but this is what I've been hearing, as I've been traveling for the last 300 days, no one has any experiences of direct impact with those particular people that have been in leadership. So it's time to have someone that's relatable, right? Because I come from the projects, but I also have the ability to go and speak with the soccer moms. Because why? Me and my wife, we hang out with the soccer moms and our kids play sports. But
For
from
sure.
from a success level in my marketing, being a marketing executive, I've been able to sit with millionaires and billionaires and add value in those rooms and those conversations. I understand business and leverage and how to get things done versus everyone else is kind of connected with how you're going to get things done with a majority Democrat legislation. Well, what they don't understand is having someone like me in office is going to be global news and it's going to be historic, first of all. First Black governor of California. This is like the Hollywood hype and entertainment, and I'm going to use and take advantage of that and get through every single door possible and make California business friendly again by reducing restrictions and regulations. But then that's going to allow us to go and address taxes. That's going to allow us to address homelessness in a very unique way as a service versus a business. So it's so much more that we can do. But when I look at the state of California, man, I get to like just rubbing my hands together, man.
Hell yeah.
There's so much opportunity, and it can change, not fix everything like this, but it can change with the blink of an eye, the right kind of culture being implemented in Sacramento.
Man, hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about, bro. That's what we need, man. That's what we need. And I love how you gave us that high level kind of vision of what you have. So maybe we can kind of just dive a little bit deeper into the specifics of each of those. So let's start off with economics. I mean, you brought up money initially. I love the hustle mentality. I mean, I got hustle tattooed right here on my arm, so it's very near and dear to my heart. So what is your economic plan for California? What are some things you would change?
So the plan for me, honestly, I tell people my plans are very organic because you have to understand, as a regular person, just like we're all voters, we're not behind the curtain, so to speak, to be able to see the array of issues that we have when it comes to our budget. But from an economic standpoint, in my leadership role, I'm going to empower small businesses, which are the backbone of our state. We have something that's called the Restore California Plan. Within the Restore California Plan, we are going to do a forensic audit my first 100 days in office. The reason why we have to do a forensic audit, because it's clear that California has a spending problem and a mismanagement problem when it comes to our funds and our tax dollars. Once we make that assessment, we are going to create a 4-year program, which is going to be a stimulus that's going to be directed to a lot of the small businesses here in our entire state, mainly because, and the theory is this, is that we have bailed out corporations, we have bailed out banks before, but never have we had someone from a leadership perspective champion for small businesses of California, which is the backbone of our entire state. Now that creates a domino effect. The main reason why I start there to a certain degree, because it's a ripple effect. If the small businesses are doing well, that means the small businesses are able to hire. That means the small businesses are able to reopen or rehire the individuals that they were laid off. They're able to increase their wages in regards to what they pay monthly, but also just be able to market and just have a footing back, because right now a lot of small businesses are one day away from going bankrupt. Sure. And it take time. Even if everything just opens up right now, the unintended consequences and the effects that his lockdown that has happened for a whole year has been detrimental. It's going to take some time to catch up. So economically, my plan is to make California business friendly. If you make California business, that's going to allow us to attract new revenue. And the only way you address taxes in a robust way is understanding new revenue coming in to allocate towards the things that they're going to fight you on, to saying what that revenue, those tax dollars are for. And that's why a lot of people don't understand that. So that's why you have to do it in layers and learn how to fight uniquely different versus coming in as a candidate. You know what? I'm going to slash taxes. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Sure. No, it's the art of war, right? It's the art of negotiation. It's the art of the deal. And if people don't understand that, it's my job as a candidate to bring that to the front for it and make them aware of that through education and just reality and being a straight shooter. There's no magic wand. There's no magic wand at all. We're in a heap of a mess based upon the last administration and including now. But the possibilities are enormous in regards to what we can do and come back with.
I love that you're starting at the foundation of small business owners, because they are middle America. And I find it very ironic that the left, the billionaire haters, the eat the rich type people are also, there's a direct correlation between that and how in favor they are of things like lockdowns, which completely decimate the middle class and small businesses. So those are two competing ideologies internally. So can you just drive that point home as to what small businesses mean for not just California, but the nation?
Well, I mean, as I said, it's like the domino effect. If you're not going domino now down, it's going to create another effect. When you sabotage or when you tank an economy as far as our small businesses, the community suffers, right? Family suffers because there's more people attached to those entities, and revenue suffers as well. So that's less tax dollars. That's less money going into our economy as well. So there's so many unintended consequences when you do that. And also, like I said, it's actually going to push people out. So even taxpayers that are here, they're going to move their businesses to other states, which is what's been happening. There's a mass exodus of small businesses, corporations, and also families that are leaving the state of California, that's taxes. And so that means less services in neighborhoods, programs for our kids and for our, for the state or your city or your region. So it's so many different things that, kind of manifest if you neglect our small businesses.
Agreed. 100%. Let's tackle some of the other issues that, as a lifelong California resident, I've seen and have gotten even, worse today. Let's talk about homelessness is a big one.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on homelessness and your plans there?
So, I mean, the fact that homelessness has risen over 16%, 16 to 18% just over the last 2 years, and we have parks that we can visit freely, it seems, because there's tent encampments everywhere. There's needles and syringes on our playgrounds for our kids to go. And we're paying for those things as taxpayers. There are small businesses, once more, that really can't even comfortably operate their businesses because there's tents and feces all on the ground, near their facilities, in their businesses. We will never put a dent in homelessness if we don't adopt these three things. And under the Restore California plan, the mission and goal is to reinstate mental health hospitals. That is a very strong component that we're missing right now. Mental health hospitals have to be reintroduced into California.
Were they? I'm sorry, I don't know much about that. Were they taken away?
Yes, a lot of them were taken away probably 20 years ago, or even before then. And so we have a very limited amount of mental health hospitals. Like, they literally closed down. There's still some that's vacant right now.
Really?
Yeah. And so mental health hospitals and more accountability with our drug and rehab facilities, which produce results to get people reacclimated. But those two do not work unless we have the third component, which is wraparound services. As a youth supervisor, I was a co-author of what we call wraparound services. Wraparound services at that particular time was catered for young boys that were 17 going to 18 years old, adulthood, and giving them a pathway for a statistic of those statistically those individuals to be successful. Meaning that whether it's trade, school, jobs, housing, we will have a hub that actually facilitates and work with those people so they can get acclimated into the real world. Well, you need the exact same thing when it comes to a homeless community, get them reacclimated back into the world with their families, back into society. And if you don't have that component, it's a perpetual cycle, because what happens is, yes, I got clean, but now I can't find a job, or now I have housing, so now I'm depressed. Oh, now I'm using again, or now I'm drinking again. And that's what we're dealing with right now, because right now the homeless situation in California is an industry. And the only thing that these politicians want to do to show us favor in regards to they're trying to address it is throw more money at it. And so when we see the dollars, that lets us know, oh, they're really trying to solve this problem when it comes to homelessness. But if you don't have defined spending and services and mechanisms in place, then you would never put a dent in the rise of homelessness here or anywhere. And that's what I've learned looking at successful models. I'm not reinventing the wheel. The reason why I have this mindset is that there are tangible models that exist that has done very well with homelessness. Will we ever eliminate homelessness? I don't think ever in my lifetime. It's just a different dynamic, right? But we could have things in place to where it's mediated in a way that there is a huge decrease over the first 2 years of my administration. And that starts with housing, mental health, drug rehab, and wraparound, which is housing, trades, jobs, and services available. And also making it, and this is not a popular thing that I say, and my advisors tell me to pull back, and I don't. My version of leadership is going to make homelessness uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable to be homeless in California because we are going to be actively cleaning off our streets, cleaning off our parks. And we're not saying, hey, you clean them off, you have nowhere to go. That's why we're doing everything we're doing with the hub that we're creating. But we have to make those tough, bold moves in order for us to progress and move forward, so people can know that that's not okay to defecate on the street, on the side. And it's not safe. It's a health issue and it's a safety issue as well. And it has to be addressed as a top priority here in our state.
So I take it you're not going to be handing out syringes.
No, sir.
All right. Love it, man. Why? Yeah, no, that sounds great to me. I'm all for it. I live here in downtown San Francisco, so I walk outside, and it's sad. Especially if you have a heart for helping others.
Yeah.
But sometimes helping someone isn't giving them anything; it's teaching them and helping them become self-sustaining. So I completely on board with your philosophy there. While we're on the subject of public services, talk to us about how you plan on helping repair the relationships between our police and the communities that they serve.
Sure. Well, once more, that's another amazing opportunity because whoever has an opportunity to kind of bridge that gap because it's so torn and withered right now, then it'd be time for a great celebration. It all starts with uh, leadership being able to kind of change the narrative. Right now, some individuals, whether it be celebrities or mainstream media, wants to make me think that a white cop is rolling around every single day looking directly for me to shoot me down or hunt me down or whatever the case may be. We know from statistics that um, as far as a white cop killing a black person is super low. It's super low, but it's highlighted so profusely through social media and mainstream media. You would think that it's happening like 40 times a day, right?
Right.
And it's not. And so what we have to do to combat it, and I look forward to telling you this when we talk about some of the education in schools. The way that we combat it is messaging effectively, creating opportunities with activists and leaders in the actual community, with law enforcement, but also the communities that they're policing as well. But also just trying to push in those particular areas to start trying to cultivate individuals who are from those areas to become part of law enforcement as well too.
Hmm.
Because from data and statistics, what we have learned, you're more likely to listen to Andre, that his grandmother down the street versus someone named Tom that you've never seen before in your life.
Hmm.
For me, that's a deterrent in itself, just from that familiarity aspect of it. So some of
Hmm.
these things are psychological, but you have to have a deep dive and you have to have multiple mechanisms working at the exact same time. Because as I say, there's no magic wand to it, but you have to hit it from all different angles. We have something that we have. It's called Meet a Cop Day, and I did this during when I was running for Pasadena mayor. Sometimes people need to see you in your regular clothes, right? Versus always with all the gear on and your guns and all this other stuff. Sometimes people need to see you in your regular clothes and engage from a civilian perspective, like meet them where they are and have those tough conversations. Some of them are, and we have to at least have the intent to want to move forward. So there needs to be reform. Uh, Police officers need more training, but also believe police officers need more funding as well versus the narrative that some others try to talk about in regards to defunding the police. I don't believe in that at all. I believe in supporting law enforcement. But I do want to call this out. I do believe that the good cops have to do a better job and show a proof of life to the community that they don't stand next to bad cops.
Hmm.
I think they have to do a better job when it comes to that to a certain degree. I know it's a brotherhood, it's back to blue or whatever. But if we are to evolve and grow, there has to be some accountability and acknowledgement from that perspective as well.
Yeah. Agreed. 100%. And you touched upon education, so I think that's a nice little segue there. What are your thoughts on the educational system, and how do you plan on reforming that?
Well, that's going to be so we're super low on the totem pole when it comes to education. Like we're the fifth largest economy, right? We're bigger than some, other countries, right, in regards to our economy, but yet we're suffering with our education with our kids. And it's once more it's due to mismanagement, and it's also because we have something in place that kind of changes that narrative in regards to how we produce quality education, which is a teachers union.
Hmm.
That's been a big issue for a lot of people. Even the current governor right now, he doesn't push back on them because we found out that's one of his biggest donors to
Sure.
political career. So of course he has some favor when it comes to that. So how do I combat that? How do we find that balance and how do we reform it? So there's two layers, there's 2 points of reference. One of them is that as a leader, I have to approach it civilly. I want to have a conversation with all the leaders and heads and point out the grievances I have with Common Core curriculum, sex education early on with our kids starting at third grade, and what we are producing with the efforts that we have in those schools, right? And I've always said, hopefully we can go back and forth to have some tough negotiations. But if not, I am going to probably still form it anyway. I'm going to form and join forces with an amazing group, and we're going to create the first ever kids union. And the kids union is just like the teachers union. It's the parents and the students and private corporations and entities that support the rights and fairness for our kids getting a better education. If they don't have a powerful force working for them, they continue to get steamrolled, by the teachers union. So once more, I've took myself out of the equation, saying, "Oh, I'm the governor. I can change everything. I can do this." No, I got out of my own way. I want to empower the right people with stronger strengths so we can fight them in a very different way, because they would expect to just have me one on one. But if I have a teachers union that's strong with thousands of parents, and then we use that whole leverage, we use that as leverage to get those individuals recalled. How do we get those people to retire and finish? So it's a whole different mechanism we're using that's going to make them accountable. Right now, there's no accountability. They don't fear anything. Everything is just the wild, wild west. But the things that we're doing is going to call them out on social media. We're going to address them through working to push them out. And I think that's going to be a great mechanism to kind of change the narrative of the conversation. So at least now we'll get to the door and we'll try to get some wiggle room when it comes to that.
So it's only been recently that I've been learning just how detrimental teachers unions actually are. Can you explain that to people? Because I don't think people, at least I didn't get it, that teacher unions were really, like, for example, the reason schools haven't opened back up yet is pretty much because of the teachers unions. Can you talk about them, and feel free to just throw them under the bus?
Well, I mean, it's the truth. They hold a lot of power and also influence. And what they're doing right now is one of those, it's an overreach, no different than the same temperament of the governor. He's over politicizing the pandemic that's been hyper extended. We know that even like with the youth and the kids, they've had like the lowest rate of even catching it, yet alone dying from COVID and whatnot, right? And so the teachers union whole fight right now is, I guess, for the actual teachers and the adults, and they're holding them back. But yet all of them are hypocritical. We've seen instances of certain the president of the teachers union walking his kid into a private school, right? But yet he doesn't want to give the okay or the consent for other parents or other schools to open up and allow these parents to try to work or to get things done. But it's all hypocritical. It's very detrimental to a lot of parents across this entire state. A lot of people feel like it should be disbanded. It hasn't been of great use. The initial aspect of it was to protect the teachers, make sure they get fair pay and things of that nature.
Sure.
The perpetual cycle of them protecting bad teachers. There's a teacher that's not, doing their job, or they're disciplined. They're still on board. They just get moved around to a different school, versus real accountability, which is you fire. And that's what the teachers union represent. They represent all the immoral and evil curriculum that exists right now with our kids, and Common Core curriculum teaches our kids nothing. Even more so because the parents can even.
Yeah, what the hell is Common Core? I heard about that a couple of years ago, and
it's basically either you write 2 + 2 down and it equals 4, or you put 2 triangles with a plus. Like, it's just they're just taking it and elaborating in a more in a way that they feel like is more beneficial for us. They're prolonging the whole process, and some parents can't even help their kids when they come home with their own schoolwork. Like,
I sure can't. And apparently 2 + 2 no longer equals 4, because that's racist or something. I've heard. Can we talk about that, actually, with this whole culture of, again, I love my state. I love the Bay, born and raised, but something about our culture has just kind of shifted in the direction of offended and no personal responsibility and identity politics. And how do you just change that culture, man? I mean, I know that's a tall ask. That's a big question there, but that's what I'm concerned about.
Well, it has to start with the intent. Yes, it is a tall task to ask, but it has to start with individuals that like yourself, and to have these podcasts to start changing the narrative of the conversation, because what we're dealing with right now with social media, you have um, you have the ability to kind of like heighten the situation or heighten certain things. Right now, everything is racist because that's the only relatability to that particular action. But in hindsight, I just don't like you. We had a bad interaction and I didn't like you, and I just happen to be a different ethnicity. You want to label as racist. It's possible that a black guy doesn't like the white guy, and just because he doesn't like him, it's not because he's racist. But everyone is overusing that term and using it inappropriately. But like all things, it becomes a trend. It becomes the norm. You get desensitized when it comes to it, and then it allows it to like run amok in regards to how it is right now, which is it's going to take some time to get past that. But I think with the right individuals in place that shows true leadership, that's inclusive,
Sure.
it's going to give us stronger bearings to be able to attack that in the right way.
Agreed, man. It's funny because we're expressing what are deemed as more conservative viewpoints. They're gonna look at this podcast, a Mexican, a Filipino, and a black guy, and somehow this is gonna be racist. So, gotta love it. On to the next subject here. What else is going on in California that Major's gonna solve? Let's talk about. This is something that's been affecting me lately because I just got some shitty lungs, I guess. But let's talk about the California wildfires.
Yeah.
That issue that's popped up, and with forest management and whatnot. So what's your assessment of that whole situation?
So I made it a point to travel up to the Central Valley where a lot of it has happened, probably 6 or 7 times. I actually just got back from the Central Valley 2 days ago. And I went up there under the pretense to actually just listen and to learn the history of what's been happening. And more importantly, the last 2 years has been an uptick in regards to the preventability of some of these wildfires. And some of those models that exist is called logging, grazing, and just simple forest management are all successful models that has worked back in the past. But because you have a lot of liberalism and environmentalists joining the conversation, slinging their weight around about certain things in regards to the forest or whatever, it's kind of negating the forest management aspect of it. And my thing is that if this is something we have to do that's going to save lives, that's going to save businesses, and not put our first responders in harm's way every single year, as a leader, I am going to execute that and find the funding to be able to produce those results that we need to keep those individuals safe. So it's a huge issue. You have families who have lost everything. I actually went through the mountains in Oroville, which is where Gavin and Kamala went for the photo shoot unannounced, right? And I was invited to come up there, and I went through the mountains where the houses were literally melted. I've never seen anything like that before, and it just shows you how hot that fire was. And so for me, just being a person of fairness, this is not a partisan issue. This is just a California issue and a preventative issue. And if we have the means to be able to tackle those issues as leaders, we should be able to pull those triggers to make that happen, so we can, negate that from happening in the future.
Here's a question that just popped into my head because you said partisan issues. What are some things that to kind of stop bashing on the left? What are some things you've seen that maybe the right has gotten wrong?
As far as elected officials,
Yeah, just about the message, the conservative message that maybe
well, you just
let's give the devil their due. What is something that we need to improve upon?
it's the conservative message and the inclusiveness of it. One of the things that we have to work on also. Sometimes we adopt liberal type reactions, and I give you a perfect example. Um, I was I was asked to come out to Minneapolis when the George Floyd thing happened, and I went out there with a couple other buddies of mine. And because I was out there and participating in peaceful protests, a lot of white conservatives, reached out to me and said, "I'm a BLM supporter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm against the cops and things of that nature." And I always make sure I bring it full force. Like, I'm not an activist. I truly am. I see myself as a leader. The beautiful part of a true leader is being able to walk in any particular circle and exist for the sole good of adding value. Now, have I ever marched with BLM? Absolutely not. Was I part of a peaceful protest that was in the Black community and BLM showed up? Absolutely. Did I run? I wasn't going to allow them to run me off. I stood my ground. They were peaceful. Nothing happened. Ended up being a peaceful protest. But what they didn't share in full context, Antifa and KKK showed up as well. So I would say to a lot of conservatives, we can't adopt the retaliation aspect of what liberals do and be so easily triggered. I also think that our outreach has been a little different, could be a lot better from a lot of different standpoints from conservatives. And we need to learn how to fight a little tougher and just stand firm in regards to what we believe in, who we believe in, right? You can't be easily swayed. Just like I said with my family, we've been through so much. Why when you find out I'm a Republican, I'm all of a sudden trash to you? That shouldn't exist.
Right.
It's kind of like you said, we can agree to disagree, but we can keep it civil and I still have love for you, right? And that's something that's conservatives and on the right, we have to be able to do also, because at the end of the day, to get real legislation, meaningful and impactful legislation passed, we have to be able to coexist. And that takes trial and error and walking in those circles, in those spaces where it's just not always about applause and adulation for you being there. I need to go in places where people are giving me pushback and questioning my motives and my agenda, which is what just recently happened when I went to the Fresno GOP in Fresno. People, it was a packed house, but everyone wasn't there just to, get a picture with me. People had real serious concerns, issues, and questions, and wanted to test my pedigree and understand my qualifications running for this particular role. And I was able to take out my Jinsu knife and just chop up every single one of the questions of these. So I think that's what we have to work on the conservative side, and just understand that at some point we all need each other. One place that I know will never exist as far as agreements is pro-life and pro-choice. So we can just leave that out there, but there's so much more work that we can do together at the end of the day.
Can you recall a specific highlight moment where somebody came at you on some BS and you totally flipped them around to a supporter?
I think last weekend I was in Sacramento, and there was a recall gathering rally right in front of the Capitol. And as I'm walking up, people are running up to say hello or whatever. There's one individual, this lady walked up to me, and the first thing she says with a camera pointed at me, not permission, she just walks up to me, and she says, so why did you change your name, Courtney? And I'm looking like, I changed it because Major is way cooler. So I just played, I love Major, right? But the reality of it is, and I explained it to her, I said, well, listen, I've gone by Major Williams for 21 years. No one in California knows me by any other name. So when I decided to run for mayor of Pasadena, I wanted my name to reflect that on my ballot. I couldn't do that unless I legally changed my name. So I legally changed my name 3 years ago to Major Williams. So if you look at my youngest son, who's 2 years old, if you look on his birth certificate, it says Major Williams. If you look on my house and my cars, it says Major Williams. If you look at old videos when I was a rapper, back in the day, it says Major Williams. And her whole thing was, she was trying to trick me, like, what do you have to hide? I think you're lying. You have a criminal record. And I found it. I said, you mean when I was 17, 18, what kind of criminal record was it? Like a misdemeanor or something? Like, so that was the first time that I got that. And it was so heightened to her, but it was so silly to me. And
the tolerant left, everybody.
Because I kept my cool during that whole thing. And she was like, well, why? And then she had the nerve to say, well, why are you still standing here? I said, because you asked me a question and I'm not afraid to have a conversation with you. You're not running me off. Like, I'm not running, tucking my tail. And then, of course, people came and just kind of got me away from her or whatever. But I was committed to staying right there. But towards the end of it, we got down to the root of the problem. She wanted to know if I was strong enough as a conservative to fight back and stand firm. And I did that. And I think at the end of it, she was just like, okay,
Respect.
Yeah.
Respect.
All right. He's not going to back down. I think he'll have some skin in the game once they really get going.
So you brought up your rap career.
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
Yes. Well, I started out as a bag boy like 20 years ago for Master P and Silk Shocker. I used to go on tour. I used to carry their bags. That was my job, right?
Wow.
When I left college, I started out with No Limit Records. I have a tank tattoo on my arm.
Let's go.
Yeah, so I started out in the industry. So I was also working with No Limit Sports. I told you I played sports. I was trying to go to the
Right.
I was with No Limit Sports. We had Ricky Anderson, Ron Mercer, Ricky Williams. We all trained together in LSU in Baton Rouge. I was the only, and Ricky Davis also. I was the only player that didn't get drafted. So for me, it was devastating. It's not like I had a great collegiate career, but I was with a great company that was getting people in. So by default, they was getting me opportunities. So I tried out. I had practice, or it's called a go see, with coaches and scouts. I had a go see with two different teams, which are the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Detroit Pistons. So those things went well, but it didn't work out. They get picked up, whatever. So that's one of the main reasons I went to California. I flew out there with Silk the Shocker, and I was depressed. I didn't want to go back to Dallas because
I gotta ask, man, how did you even get tapped in with those guys? Because that's Master P during the No Limit days. Like that's prime time.
So once more, my ambition is different, man. I think I don't know if it was MySpace or something that existed at that time, and I was able to make that connection. How did it? I think it was just email, man, or like MySpace or something like that. I got
Inbox.
some of them, inboxes or some, man, and I just got a reply back. And once I went out there, I just kind of like just hanging out with them or whatever. Big Ed the Assassin and Mr. Servo were really good friends of mine. Were still good friends of mine. Rest in peace to Big Ed the Assassin. They kind of tucked me in, and me and Silk kind of befriended each other because we always play ball. P played.
Yeah, P played. Yep.
So we would play ball every day, train every day, and so it's just that familiarity just came. But I can't remember that. I think it was just like MySpace or something that I got connected with one of the people. But initially it was for sports, for basketball.
Sure.
Because I wanted to be a part of No Limit Sports, and that's initially what got me out to Baton Rouge. I was staying with my buddy. He lived in a one-bedroom house. He was going to Southern University. I was sleeping on his couch because I was chasing a dream, man, and that's exactly that was my entryway with them. But yeah, I wanted to do music. I was 23 when I came out here, 23, 24 years old, and I got into acting. I got 4 or 5 national commercials with Dockers, Foot Locker, Adidas, and made good money just by default. Just I nailed my first ever audition for a Foot Locker Adidas commercial, and it was like 200 people in Santa Monica, people that I've seen on TV, and I'm just like starstruck, like, man, I seen this guy in this, I seen this guy in this. And for whatever reason, I end up, getting the commercial, and that was like the start of like being in entertainment and things of that nature. But the music kind of came just by naturally being around those guys, and I wasn't good, man. It was just 10 years of my life that it just kind of went under the radar. But when you're in the moment, like that's what you want to do. Because every time I start something, I just
if Master P and Silk the Shocker say, "Hey, hop in the studio," I'm not gonna say no to that.
Yeah, So, and I was an artist with Shocker Records, and then fast forward, I ended up signing with Jamie Foxx, Foxhole Records, and I went on tour with French Montana, and in Canada, So I've had my little glimpses. If you go to YouTube right now, I have music on there. I'm actually in a movie on YouTube, and so I still get like royalty checks every now and then.
Let's go, the businessman. I love it. So you and P still talk, man? Is he endorsing you for your run for governor?
I haven't talked to P in probably, man, years, like years and years and years. I would hope so. I know one thing that he's about. A lot of his DNA is in me in regards to empowerment and ownership. And so I'm just so blessed to have the opportunity to kind of learn under his mentorship. But I haven't talked to him in a while. I ran into Romeo not too long ago, a couple of years ago, when I was running for mayor, actually. We were in Glendale and we exchanged numbers, and Silk, we exchanged numbers, but we've all been so tremendously busy. And when you're adults right now, like you just your family, your friends, in your household at the end of the day, because we just wish each other well. Obviously, they're not Republicans, so hopefully at some point there'll be an entryway, because I'm reaching out to Q. We reached out to LeBron. I know we don't align politically on a lot of different things, but if it really is Black Lives Matter to those guys, well, this is a guy running for governor of California, so at least we should be having a conversation.
Of course. As long as China will allow LeBron to have that conversation with you, but that's a different conversation. Had to throw that in there. And while we're on the subject, man, so let's keep it going. So let's talk major outside of politics, man. Who are you on a regular day? Tell us about your family life. Let us know you just as a person, man.
Well, regular life is just I enjoy working out. I enjoy hanging out with my kids. I enjoy golf. I love doing anything that's competitive. I have a brand called Majorpreneur, which allows me to travel all over and speak on panels and public speak with young people and with small businesses, helping them with marketing solutions for their social media or for their businesses or for their sales and advertising models. And that's kind of like my superpower. I've been able to learn so much information over the years to the fact that I've been able to now can add value and charge people for that. And I've been very successful with that. And that started when I was in the music industry with Jamie Foxx. And I tell people, don't get it twisted. Even when I was doing music and rap videos, my pants sagging, I was still putting on the suit closing big time deals because I wanted to be the next Russell Simmons or the P Diddy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just wasn't just like this
Or the Master P.
Right, or a Master P, so I came from that culture of just a mogul, right? That was the whole goal. And so even like with this campaign, the person tried to attack me, with that one specific video and say, how is this person going to lead us? This is who they are. Look at the lyrics or whatever. I'm saying, so what are you saying? Are you saying that music artists are uneducated, or are you saying because I've did this in the past, I can't exist as who I am today? So for me, it's actually, I'm so happy that it's there. And they got to understand, they only see it because I allowed them to see it. I own everything, right? I knew it was breadcrumbs and some individuals would pick it up because what they don't understand, that's going to make our campaign and me relatable even more so. So for people who are not even into politics or love Republican or Democrat, the fact that I have related to them at that level, it's like, man, you know what? I rock with him to a certain degree. I'm gonna give him a shot. And no one else, as far as the candidate, has that flexibility, which is why we have a crossover appeal. Even under the Republican umbrella, we appeal to a broader audience than just Republicans.
Yeah, no, and I love that, man. I mean, at the end of the day, I think this two-party system just creates divide in the deal itself, there being, two opposing parties. So
Yeah.
being able to dance that line and talk to people across the aisle is definitely admirable, man. So that's what's up, bro. Shoot, I already liked you coming into this podcast, but I like you even more now, man. And look at that. We almost made it a whole hour without talking about COVID, but we couldn't let that happen because that's the issue of the day. So let's talk COVID and just your view on COVID and whatever the hell is going on. And I'll leave it very open-ended for you to just kind of riff on that for a second.
Well, I mean, the assessment of it, sometimes people ask the question like, what would you have done if you were governor, when COVID had hit? And I tell people from a fair perspective, I got the cheat code because I wasn't the governor, and you just never know sometimes when certain crises happen, how you're going to perform. Just like, if I put a gun to your face, what are you going to do? Of course, people could, kind of map it out if you're just asking them the question. But once it actually happens, you don't truly know your true reactions to certain things. But from who I've been, I know based upon the assessment of the situation in regards to the data that was coming back in after a certain amount of time, my actions definitely would have been different than Governor Gavin Newsom's. There would have been a 2-week curve, but under my leadership, there would have been an extended 7-week curve as well too. But that's as far as I will be willing to take it in regards to our small businesses staying closed down, our gyms, our stores, etc. I still would have been supportive of mask for a certain degree, but I would have made it a choice. And I also would have been open for the 6 feet distance. My whole platform would have been about choice, or my leadership style would have been about choice the entire time, because what has happened under these mandates and mandatory masks and restrictions, now we have an even bigger issue. It goes back to the unintended consequence, and is reminiscent of racism. Now you have maskers, unmaskers, vaccinated, unvaccinated people looking at each other in a lot different way than versus if that even existed. I was walking down in my neighborhood with my sons, and a woman literally walked in the street off the sidewalk just so she wouldn't walk past us. So think psychologically what that did to my kids, psychologically what it did to me, because clearly I'm thinking this girl is a nut, and I'm thinking like, and I shouldn't, because I shouldn't have to judge her. That's her choice, right? But psychologically, we are being programmed in a way that we're looking at each other in a more heightened sense right now. And I think that's what's even happening with some of the crime that's happening with our Asian community as well. Psychologically, people are just wired and they're tired. And when you shelter people and you put them against each other with this unconstitutional mandates, and it's just like a slap in the face. I tell people, I would much rather you take your fist and hit me in the face and slap me. You know, in the South, that's disrespectful if you slap someone, right? And so that's what some people do. If they really want to just like call you out, it's a slap to the face. And I feel like Governor Gavin Newsom has taken a huge hand and just slapped the faces of all Californians with his mismanagement of COVID. And I tell people this before I close. Being the governor of California, you have to understand this. Your audience has to understand this. If he is the governor, he is privy to way more information than the average person like us. He is truly behind the curtains to understand the severity of what's going on with the pandemic, right? Do you think that a person having all that information would at any time go out without a mask, go visit French Laundry, dine without mask amongst other doctors in public so vainly, knowing that they could potentially get caught? Do you think that he would leave his house if he know that this virus is that deadly? He has all the top information funneled to him. So how serious is this at the end of the day? Do we tank our entire economy? And now we're creating stimulus and passing $1 trillion bills to kind of help everybody now. Like I break you down and I'm the one that bring you back. So now champion and I'm the savior now. And I'm hoping that voters don't allow that. And I'm hoping people realize our campaign is the alternative and we should punish him for that. And how we punish him for that is getting him out of office.
Which, by the way, people, if you haven't signed for the recall yet, please wait no longer and do so. Major Williams, we're coming up on the hour here, my friend. I've absolutely enjoyed this conversation, but we do have to leave you with our signature question. Yes. Being that this is, matter of fact, Dustin, you take it away, man. Let's get you a question in.
I've been zooming the whole time. I love it. So yeah, being the dedication to excellence, Major, what would it, in your own words, what does it mean to live a life in dedication to excellence to you?
Well, living a life, what it means to me, living a life in dedication, I would say, you have to be goal oriented. You have to watch other successful people in support versus envy. Oftentimes we're part of a culture right now that says eat the rich and they envy other people's success. I just think we have to show more stories of success through dedication to show people this is how you can actually accomplish certain things in life. And it's okay to have hard work, but you also work smart at the same time. But dedication to excellence should be like a staple mindset for everyone, or a daily affirmation, for yourself, because it starts with the language and how you speak and what you think, which will manifest your surroundings that you'll actually be able to live in. And so for me, that's super important. Dedication to excellence is something that everyone should just like walk around in that t-shirt, man, and so they can have a friendly reminder.
Dustin, we need to come out with t-shirts ASAP just so we can play that clip. Major Williams, brother, thank you so much for your time. Can you let the people know how they can support you in your campaign?
Absolutely. So we have an amazing website. It's Major for Governor, and that's FOR, so majorforgovernor.com. Also, we have a campaign right now that we're trying to get over 40,000 supporters to purchase a campaign hat. The reason why that's so significant is like a walking billboard. We learn how to market and target differently through our experiences and through our moments. So we're not going, although we may do some of the traditional stuff like radio and TV spots, we'll do that a little bit later. But right now, to get the word out and show the support that we have across the state of California, one way to support is purchase campaign merch. And you can get that at majorwilliamsmerch.com.
Perfect. So we can go ahead and leave it right there. Major Williams, thank you so much. Dustin, I'm sorry, Boise, Idaho might have to wait, might stick around in California. This is the kind of leadership I can be expecting on the horizon. On behalf of the Dedication to Excellence podcast, appreciate everyone for tuning in, listening in. Definitely check out Major Williams and what he got planned for the state of California. It's about to be lit. In the wise words of Master P, make him say, and we out. Peace.